design? Why are extracting new products when we already have some down the stream? So that's the way we are trying to connect. That's the way that the circular economy works. I'm going to dive into the particular questions because I really have a question for Lindsay that I'm really excited to ask. You ready?
No.
Okay. How does the CSU plan to integrate SB 54 compliance into sustainability goals? And what partnerships do you envision to be crucial for this effort?
I used to like you. No, the reason I'm teasing Laura, which she well knows, is that waste has been a challenge for the CSU. And there's a number of reasons for that. I'm not placing blame, certainly, but there is, at any given campus, there's somewhere between 10,000 and 40,000 of you, depending on the campus. And everybody adheres to waste strategy and sustainability in different ways, or they don't. And so it's a huge population to try and manage. We all have different jurisdictional authorities with regard to our waste haulers and what happens with that waste. There then become secondary questions, cascading effects of having, organics diversion with regard to if your truck has to pick it up and drive it 30 miles to get it somewhere where it can be processed. So there's a lot of just institutional and systemic hurdles that we have to get through. One of the things we're working on now, we passed a sustainability policy in 22. I couldn't remember. It's the first thing I did when I started back with the chancellor's office, and I can't even remember where that was now. But so we passed that policy, and within that has zero waste goals. And what we've been trying to do is stack practices and policies on top of that, including procurement, which should we have auto sub programs and things like that with regard to products that we buy, and they should be prioritizing things that can either be purchased in bulk with limited packaging, or purchasing items that use sustainable packaging practices. And also, trying to look at ESGs in general and support companies that have, sustainable practices as part of their core values. And then also looking at implementing our single-use plastics policy, which has been something of a failure. And one of the reasons for that is the way, and as a student, I didn't know this, so I'm going to explain this, and I apologize if you're already familiar, but the way dining services, the way markets, the way different operations on campus work is the campus doesn't own those operations. They're usually contracted through a third-party service, which means we have to manage all their activities on the basis of contracts. And the contracts are long ones, 25 years sometimes. So if you don't foresee 25 years into the future, you're talking about a contract that you're not going to have the opportunity to modify in any recent time. And so, and at the end of the day, these companies are bottom line for-profit organizations, generally speaking. And so they're not interested in modifying their whole we'll just use packaging as an example, their whole packaging practice, because it could mean retooling organizations, finding a new subcontractor that does the work for them or manufacturer that does the work for them. They don't like it as well. It doesn't work as well as their previous product, whatever their reasons are. And the university has limited recourse in dealing with it. This is hence the power comment about students, that when students start demanding it, when they're like, we're not going to buy water bottles, we're going to start carrying these all around. And I see so many of them, that makes me so freaking happy, because I hate bottled water with a vicious, vicious passion. Thank you. But related to that is students saying, I'm not going to buy this product because it's poorly packaged, it's wasteful. And then these companies have to do something. So with that, I think really we're going to try and handle it through policy, which is our way of doing it. And then Laura and I are going to go with our sandwich boards and bells and bang on things and yell at people for doing it wrong and do it better. And we're going to rely on you. I think one of the things as we get into our scope 3, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much, I'm going to wrap it up. Scope 3, our scope 3 goals, we just hired our scope 3 manager who's standing up the program for the CSU, very important. And one of the things we're going to start doing is going around and talking to student groups to start to generate that interest and also answer questions and also listen to what you all have to say to us about what works for you on a campus and what doesn't. We don't want to start out with things that are bound to fail. We want to have the little wins. We want to show that it can be done. So, so that's sort of a short, kind of a cop-outy answer to a very, very hard question. And then Laura will tell me afterward what she wants me to do when I get back to my office.
No, I want to add, as a campus, we actually were successful in the single-use plastic policy. And it wasn't because of me sending memos to every single restaurant every day, or us doing audits of what they're using. It was because a group of students put a call to action to the president's office in 2022. And they got it changed within 2 days after it being in place for 4. So you have the power. We're going back to the first question. You got the power to make a change, more than us.
I'm just going to address the question about SB 54. So legislation in general can be helpful to us. It can be something we lean on. However, the way that the CSU holds jurisdictional authority over regulation and policy in the state is we're not obligated to comply with a lot of the legislation that passes. We have to be specifically mentioned. And so sometimes that's great because sometimes legislation doesn't work for a campus environment. There's a reason that caveat is there. But sometimes when legislation that we would like to be followed gives us that out, then we have to have the additional sort of, I'm going to say argument, but that's not a great word, the additional conversation with campus leadership who's trying to rub 2 pennies together and make $1 million, why they still have to adhere to this. And generally we do that by saying we align with California's values. This is a California state institution. We care about California's values, and we need to be aligning with them in policy, if not in legislation. So yeah, so it's kind of a yes and no answer.
Cool. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Julian, how does faculty research can contribute to advising circular economies and practices in Sacramento and the Plaza region?
That's a good question. How can faculty and research with students contribute to this stuff? Well, I come at it from, as I mentioned in my introduction, sort of the downstream side. So one of the ways that I get students to understand the impacts of waste is by looking at it on the ground when they find it littered around campus, in our parking lots, and out in the American River Parkway. So a few of my students, raise your hands if you participated in the Great American River Cleanup event that was both out in the parkway and on campus. We did something a little bit different from what was happening out in the parkway. We were also, as we were picking up trash, we were collecting data on what we were finding. And this is all kind of within the approach to doing participatory monitoring or participatory science, where students are involved not just in the service aspect of making our campus less littered, but learning from that experience as they go by collecting data and sort of studying the trash and collecting data that will actually be used by our campus in our compliance with a different policy. This is our stormwater policy that we have to comply with in minimizing trash flows out to the American River. So anyway, that's sort of my own personal entry point into this topic, but I think that the general approach of participatory science, or what we've called on this campus authentic learning experiences through the Sirius program, are ways that students can do projects through classes that are real world and engaged with our communities on all of these topics that we're talking about, and that train them to take these approaches and skills out into the workforce when they go. So it's hard skills, and it's also skills that are just like empowering them to bring new ideas to their jobs when they come out too. So I think, like, as much as we can think of ways to get students actually involved in the monitoring and the science and the implementation of this stuff, the better. That's my take on it.
So I'm gonna move to Scott because I think this is very related to that, and is How can organizations like WPWMA can collaborate with academia to get these practices going?
Well, we're very interested in partnering with academia to fund and contribute to research efforts that will solve our problems. And our problems aren't only for us. You know, we're a landfill. We have hazardous material. We have problematic material. We're discharging, you know, water that has some contaminants to the treatment facility that needs to be cleaned up. So we're trying to bring in people that are way smarter than us that can figure out ways to actually solve these problems. And we want to help be a part of that by funding the research and creating an actual research facility on our site where someone comes and says, I have this idea and I want to take this and clean it up and make a product or make a, you know, invention that I can, you know, market and use at different facilities. And we want to invite that in and be a part of it and help facilitate that.
Awesome. So I'm gonna stop the panel for a second and I'm gonna open an invitation for our public. And is, if you're a student and you hear something you like about this conversation, you're interested in diving into circular economy, or you are faculty or staff member in this campus or at the Sierra campus, and you're looking to create those partnerships, WPWMA and the Placer campus under Sac State, we just got approval to move forward with this innovation lab. So we can start early as the spring to have faculty research and students working on these strategies. So something to think about. I know students are almost ready to go out of class. So just if you're interested, ask your professor for my information or contact Sac State Sustainability. Okay, Shira, going back to you. From the entrepreneurial perspective, what innovative opportunities exist for a small business and startups with the circular economy?
Oh my gosh, so many.
So many. So at the Atrium, we're a place where you can actually test a product. If you created a product, and that means, I'll give an example. This is my bag. This is made out of inner tube tires. This is one of our local artists, amazing, talented. She came to us one day and she's like, I make bags. And I'm like, can I introduce you to a new material? And now she makes bags, and this is one of her biggest, she makes bags and wallets, and she no longer drives Uber, and this is now her full-time job. She's now expanding in part of our accelerator program. When we're talking about circular economy, to think about reuse. So if you have, even if it's a candle, you don't have to invent new things. If you're creating a candle, and let's say you're saying this candle does not have any bad sense, you know, there's like all these chemicals people are putting in candles right now, but your packaging is reusable, meaning you have a take back program. Like somebody can bring back the packaging, like we do at the Atrium. We tell our customers, bring back the packaging to the Atrium, we collect it, and when our producers come to drop off new products, they take the empty containers, they sanitize it, refill it, and bring it back to the store, creating a zero waste system. And it's simple, it's not rocket science. But where it becomes a little bit more complex is when we're trying to scale this. And that's what we're trying to do. So at the Atrium, you can come, it is free. Use us. It is free. We have a program where you can come and say, oh, I made this in Sacramento, and I recommend buying Sacramento made if you can. And you can come in and it goes 70% to you, 30% to our nonprofit. It doesn't cost you to get on our program. But then you can actually test your product in Old Sacramento with real life people picking up your product, looking at it. We can see, oh, is the price point too high, too low? What are people saying about it? Maybe we need to alter the design a little bit more. This is like real life testing. And then we also test it online. We have Sacramento.shop, which is an online marketplace for Sacramento made items, which is exactly what's in the store is online. And we do same day delivery in Sacramento County. It's a little FU to Amazon. And we say, like, buy Sacramento made, buy locally made. So use us, because our goal is to elevate Sacramento made products that are within the circular economy that are either upcycled, eco-friendly, or maybe you're starting off from like the upstream, you're already starting off getting organic cotton. And EPR packaging doesn't end with packaging, right? They just passed the textile law. I forget the number of it, but now, which one?
707.
Thank you.
Nice.
So textiles, now there's going to be a whole new incentive for textiles and taking back textiles. And how do we figure out what we do with all these textiles that when people are thinking like, oh my God, I'm going to take bottles and turn them into clothes. Yeah, but microplastics, again, you're washing and creating more microplastics. So it's not the ideal situation. So again, it's really innovating, and you are welcome to come to the atrium anytime. We're open 5 days a week, zero barrier. And you can come talk to any of our staff of like, I have an idea. We'll be like, great. And we're here to help you. So we want to be a resource as much as we can.
Thank you. That's great. So we are still early on time for those that sign for the full event, but we know the students have to go back to the next class in a few minutes. So I'm gonna stop the questions for a second and give the students the opportunity to have any questions. Ask any questions to anybody in the panel if they have any. Oh, yeah. You're not a student.
No students are asking.
Okay.
I got a question. So this bill is going to monetarily penalize these companies for their packaging materials, right? So how does that encourage them to not do it and not just pass that cost on to the consumer? How does that somehow prevent them from using the products or encourage them not to do it when they can just increase the price to offset that fine or that fee?
Well, one, they don't necessarily want to increase the price, but yes, they might do that. Within statute, it says that they can't. It's upon them. I know. But that is going to be the responsibility of the producer responsibility organization. And they're the ones that are going to be reporting to CalRecycle. And that goes where every producer is going to have to report how much packaging they're producing, how much plastic, each component, and then how much have they reduced or increased, because if they had a great sale one year and not the other, then that's an increase in plastic components. So there's going to be like a baseline fee that these producers are going to pay, plus eco-modulation on top of it. Because the PRO is going to have at least $1 billion annual budget. Because $500 million has to go to mitigation fund, meaning to help fix rivers and go to tribal nations where things are pretty terrible. And then on top of that, they have to invest with recycling centers and invest in better sorting systems. So there's going to be a lot of money that they have to figure out how they're going to get from these producers. And then being part of the solution for the PRO, that's where you all can step in and go, I have a solution. I have an idea.
I also believe there is going to be a lot of grants opening through CalRecycle for solve some of these issues, and that as a higher education institution, we get a chance to collaborate with the students and the local communities and our waste management authorities to come up with better plans and solutions for that and how we can contribute to make the change. I saw a student hand.
And there's already lots of grants out happening today.
Oh, yeah.
About the Sacramento made products that you have, a lot of the times those will be more expensive than something you would find at the store. And that is because you're having to buy all the products yourself. So you're going to have to upsell it. And then if you guys are taking 30%, it's going to go up even higher. And you said that one of the concerns there is seeing how people would react to the pricing. How would you lower the pricing there? Like, would you assist those Sacramento creators with buying their products? Like, is there any way to lower the prices?
Well, I mean, that's sourcing your products, right? And that's figuring out your price point. And again, when you're creating a product, you have to figure out market fit. Like, this is costing me. So even before you're producing the product, you have to look at how much does it cost to buy your materials? How much does it cost your time in it? And then what is your profit margin on top of that, right? These are all things you have to calculate. Now, 30% is nothing. When you are going wholesale, right, that's 50, sometimes you're getting 40% at wholesale, right? So our system is actually an introductory system into wholesaling. So when you're thinking about how you're pricing your product, if you have a product, really think about, okay, you have your retail cost, you have your wholesale cost, what are your profit margins in each? And that's where we help you.
Okay, do we have any more questions from the public? Okay, I'm gonna keep going then. I'm gonna ask this question and everybody can answer. What is one concrete action that attendees can take individually or within their organizations to contribute to the circular economy?
Oh, go for it.
Super easy one. Take one thing, do your own personal analysis of how much Amazon product you buy. And take one thing, just one thing that you're going to buy through Amazon and buy it locally. Just one thing. It doesn't matter how big it is, how small it is, how expensive, how cheap. Just one thing. Because I think what we forget about this is that the ability to achieve change is not 100% compliance with all things that are good and lawful and regulated and comply with the law, I guess. But get in good trouble, as one of our friends say. But if you just do that, like one thing, it's totally achievable. It's not budget breaking. It's one thing. But if everybody does it, the impact is huge. And trust me, Amazon doesn't need your money. So that's my one simple thing.
My one simple thing is walk around with your own mug.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to use any single use or anything like that. You be the weirdo, but then eventually this is going to be normal and you'll be amazed at how much you actually reduce by having your own mug, and it's more fun. And you get to educate people on like, yeah, I don't drink out of plastic. You want to know why? Let me tell you.
And if you bring it to any coffee shop on campus, you get a 25-cent discount. So please bring your own mug.
Yes.
My idea is to make some water fountains, just spout coffee out of them, because then I wouldn't need a cup or a mug. I'd just drink coffee. So we'll work on that with facilities, but that's not my idea. My idea is that you figure out where your waste goes, especially plastic. So look up your waste hauler. You can just look it up for your city or county or district that you're in, and try and figure out what plastic is actually recycled versus not, because a shockingly small percentage of plastics that we actually use are actually recycled. So maybe we'll do that for our quiz on Thursday. Give me an idea.
Ooh. I mean, if you guys read the Sac State Sustainability How to Sort Your Waste guide, you guys pass the quiz, I'm just saying.
My thing would be throw away one less thing a day, and then every week increase that to 2 and 3 and 4 and kind of see how high you can go. And it really kind of starts to change your behaviors a little bit and makes you think a little bit more about what you're actually discarding.
Wow, that's awesome.
Okay, one thing is, how many people here think that when you recycle a bottle, it turns into another bottle? No one? Really? Oh, I love you. I just want to introduce the idea of plastics. Recycling is kind of like a deceptive word because it's really downcycling. And when you start recognizing that, you really understand the impact of plastics, because that plastic bottle will turn into carpet, it will turn into clothes, and then once it's done, it turns into trash. So just to kind of think about downcycling with plastics.
All right. The last question of the day, it's right, I'm not gonna go hard, is what metrics or indicators we should prioritize to make sure we're moving in the right direction with new policies and waste management?
Say that one more time.
What metrics or indicators we should prioritize to make sure we're moving in the right direction towards the circular economy, new policies, and waste management?
I got one. Do you? Yeah.
I was gonna look toward Julian there and be like, tell us what we do. And this is not this is kind of an obvious one, but I really think our diversion rates is a really like there's accuracy issues with it. We know that, but it's the first thing that indicates behavior, which is one of the principal things we need to change. Thinking about the practice of taking the time to sit at 3 bins, even if we were to get to a point where it's like we single stream and they all get sorted and it's wonderful, getting into the practice of thinking about where all your waste goes is like kind of the holy grail in achieving any of this. So I think keeping an eye on those numbers and looking for modest but steady progress, while we are also working on the back end problem of does it actually end up where it's supposed to end up? Does it actually get recycled into something, or does it get downcycled, or does it get moved to landfill, which a lot of it does. But it does indicate that the behaviors are working in the right direction. So that's kind of a freebie, but that's one of the ones I think of.
I have a couple. So I just want to talk about the single stream. The only reason why there'll be a debate on single stream is, one, it's a lot easier for the consumer, but 2, you get a dirtier result out of it. So kind of like plus and minuses. I just wanted to spread that out. I know like single stream actually has a great diversion rate. It has great recycling rate, but the end product is a lot harder to sometimes use. And then data. In terms of data, the big issue that we have right now is that, and I'll take CalRecycle for example, when they're looking at diversion and they're looking at waste, they're going to hire consultants for millions of dollars for them to figure out where they are, what's the baseline, and that data is going to be 2 years old. And so what would really be good is having accurate data that is real-time data.
I see some students heading off to class. That's fine if you need to go, but you're welcome to stay for the whole class. So thank you for coming. My idea, actually, as students are leaving, was going to be contact hours with students on education, but also kind of science engagement, doing engaged projects with industry, with attending public meetings and things like that, getting our university engaged. And so you just got 45 contact hours, and that's a good start.
I like that.
I would say, well, first I've been in this industry for a long time, and I've seen a lot of evolution. I think we're definitely heading in a good direction. I've also been very involved in 3-bin systems for many, many years, and I think both systems work. I'm actually partial to the single bin system for various reasons, and again, not because of where I work. I come from Palo Alto, where I spent a lot of years trying 3-bin systems, and they were always contaminated. But that being said, what I would say a metric, because you talk about diversion, and diversion is great. It can be, how you look at it, many different ways to skin a cat, obviously. But for me, it would be how much volume, how much we're taking in as a facility. And if that number's going down, then that means people are, as our population's going up, obviously in Placer County, then we're doing a good thing.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's great. I made a note to myself to start tracking how much we're taking into a campus. And I was like, I don't know if I can do that. Okay, for the last few minutes, does anybody in the public have any questions for our panelists? Ooh. Okay.
A panel.
Lane 4, Lindsay. Yes.
It's not necessarily like a question, but you said that you could make progress with Amazon by ordering like one less thing. I also have seen that it'll ask you if you want to send it in the same box.
Yeah.
So instead of you like taking the time, because I know some people.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so it'll
But
like ask you.
I love that because I'm always like, so I really try not to do Amazon anymore, but when I was doing a lot of it. And just sit there with like these boxes that are in perfect good condition. I flatten them all out and I'm just like, why can't they're gonna drop something off at my house? Why can't they just have the stack of boxes and they take it? And I get that they get ruined and things happen, but most of them are in good condition. I refuse to believe they can't be reused. And sorry, never mind. I'm just realizing what you're talking about. Have everything shipped at once as opposed to different.
They actually give you credit if you do that too.
Yeah, I was digital credit.
Digital credit that you can
I
rent
did know about
movies, you
that.
cannot
I
do
did
anything
know
else with it.
I did know about that. I'm sorry, I'm just realizing I'm saying it out loud. I'm like, wait, that's not what you meant. But also, I would like them to take their boxes back.
That would be,
But all those products are made in China
Right.
and everything. And then people think like, oh, the waste. But when you see those rivers of waste, that is rivers of waste from here.
Yeah.
Because recycling sometimes is us exporting our plastic waste out to third world countries. And sometimes it's not even verified if they have the capacity to take it. And so a lot of times they just take it, buy it, the government's corrupt, and they end up burning it or sending it down the river. So like,
Or impoverished people are sorting
Correct.
through it and exposing
Trash
themselves
pickers.
to all kinds of illness and disease.
and that's the Basel ratification of the Basel Convention.
I don't fit in too good on CJ. I did a practical work experience with literature. And I think it's getting old fashioned or something. So it's got to be hard knocks, stuff.
Right.
I don't fit in counseling like victim's family or alcoholism or marriage or any family. That doesn't qualify for me. So, but James Dean Rebel without a cause. He did not have friends or anything. He went to the planetarium to get in a knife fight. It's not just the same, but I was a rebel against a two-party system. I was a big one with not many others. So just let you know.
Ryan, do you have a
I've
question?
experienced the Libertarian Party and European Union, just year-long assignments and that kind of stuff. So, all right, thanks.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of partially a question, partially a thought, right? So how do you insulate, looking at the new policy, how do you insulate it from things that are examples that have come up in other regulations, right? So 1383, you start having a bunch of utensils that are made that are compostable, but they're not really compostable, right? The plastic bag ban, the solution was, well, now we're going to make plastic bags thicker.
Yeah.
And now it's reusable, but the reality is people don't use those as reusable bags. The plastic just got thicker, right? And so how do you avoid or insulate the new policy from that, right? Part of it is you don't know until after the fact, right? Well, what can you do to insulate it?
You can come to regulation meetings. Come and hang with me at regulation meetings and then give your comments, because that's what we do. We go to these regulation meetings as they're doing. So, once a bill passes, then it goes through regulation, and that's kind of figuring out, okay, how the hell are we going to do this, right? And then come to regulation meetings and kind of look at like, oh, this regulation might cause this. And that's the plastic bag. So one thing that we recommended was that when they're saying reuse, the reuse has to be on the producer, not on the consumer. So that's one stipulation that we put in there, that because otherwise they're going to go, oh yeah, we sold it, it's reusable. They can reuse it at home. That's doing the same thing of putting the onus of that packaging on the consumer or the ratepayer. We like to call them ratepayers to remind people that these are people that are paying to get rid of trash. But yes, please come.
I sent you the invite. Right. Yes.
So it's sort of waste reduction, but the last couple of years I explored plant-based eating, and the number one way to reduce your carbon footprint is a plant-based diet. Some would call it veganism. But also I noticed in this time that, especially if you do Whole Foods, you're not getting as many cans and bags. You're not going to fast food places and getting all that trash. that my main trash now is compostables from, the innings that I'm putting on vegetables. So I love to tell my sister who just bought a Tesla that my impact by going plant-based on carbon footprint is more than her electrifying the vehicle. So I would just encourage everyone to just investigate that.
Yeah. It's also another thing that you can do without having to go all the way, right? Like if you eat meat 3 times or meat-based meals 3 times a week, and you could get it down to just 2. If you're going to make progress, yes, a flexitarian, exactly. I like this notion of chipping away at a problem, biting off little bits, and then finding like, oh, this wasn't that hard. Now I've got kind of a repertoire of plant-based recipes. So now I don't have to think every week of like, oh my God, what am I going to do for dinner on Tuesday? No meat Tuesday. We're not doing meat. Like, and that kind of stuff, it will build on itself for you personally, but then collectively, obviously, it has major impact. And all of these things, again, have cascading impacts, which I think is, then we start talking about who are the people downstream of, or rather upstream of those kinds of things that are affected, and how do we make sure that they're made whole, by the decision to have less meat or use less energy or what have you. So, but I think that's a really great example of the same kind of notion as like the Amazon thing. Just do a little bit less, find out you can do it, and do a little bit more or less, a little bit lesser.
And then if you are hosting an event, then make sure that there are vegan options.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll be shocked that a lot of people will prefer that. Or maybe just provide vegan options and people will eat that. And then you are already reducing.
That's why I did food service and radio station, bookstore, and all kinds of stuff.
All right. Is anybody else in
When I
the
did food
public
service, I liked the job.
have
I
any
still want to
questions
use
for
it.
our panelists today? If not, I would like to just close them with a big round of applause. Thank you for coming. I'm gonna pitch it again. If you're interested in doing research in this area, come talk to us, to Cameron at the Carlsen Center, to the Sustainability Office at Sac State, to the Placer Campus Fellows, to WPWMA. We have opportunities opening up for everyone, and everybody's invited. Thank you. Ooh, nice.
Right now. Yeah, can you?
Still want to use that did research, but you can't put it in your book.
We'll be opening application process.
By Zoom. Participated
But 1 year at a time.
It was great to meet you.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
emails.
We've emailed.
You guys both work here and you haven't met? Really?
Well,
we're downtown.
No, I'm actually here on the campus, but I'm traveling all the time.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but do we have something on the calendar, or did we have something on the calendar? Communicated by email. I thought it was related.
It was around
Even in like a regional
Oh, okay.
economy, right? We have 2 different systems and so.
Oh yeah, so I was trying to get a bunch of like grid campuses together
Oh,
to do litter
Decisions
monitoring for agencies in the region. So I still want to do that. I'm working. I have a project in East Bay for the WPA.
Oh, okay.
But I'm reaching out to the other sustainability offices, the San Jose, San Francisco, East Bay, Sonoma. I'd love to get like all the campuses.
So you're actually Sonoma and just
Right now.
because of enrollment. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So if I didn't get back to you, you need me to do anything on that, reach out to me and I'll get you connected with the right people.
And the person I connected with at East Bay was also at San Francisco. This was like a year or 2 ago.
Was it on the, it might have been on the academic side. It's on the
Oh,
academic.
sustainability.
Oh,
Anyway, I can write you.
okay. So I think you're on your support. Honestly, I can't. But at least full-time.
I'm on this
assistant
number.
and stay on. Yeah.
Just, I need to, I don't know what the heck this guy's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you're great network of the area.
Yeah. She doesn't feel
Yeah, I know some of that.
But I can definitely help you.
Thank you.